Hi everyone, we're going to be looking at dot plots today. You have been learning about measures of center, measures of spread, and also the shape of the data. And now we're going to specifically be looking at dot plots. Now to start off, let's go ahead and talk about the different parts of a dot plot. We can see here that we have a title. We're going to be looking at the number of touchdowns scored in a football game. And then with dot plots, we have a number line down here. The good thing about the number line is that our points are already in order from least to greatest. That's going to help us out in a few moments. Now, for us to truly understand what this represents, we have to figure out what each of these dots represent. And that's where your number line comes in. So we want to go ahead and write out all the points that we have here. So for 0, we have 1 dot, which means that we have 1 0 in the data set. For 1, we have 1, 2, 3. So that means we have 1, 2, 3 ones. For 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have 1, 5 at the end. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 dots. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 numbers listed in our data set. Once we list out these numbers in our data set, it's going to make finding our measures of center and spread much easier in the dot plot. Let's start with measures of center. We have the same dot plot here, and the set of data is already in order from least to greatest. Let's start with the median. Based on what we practiced last week, what do you think the median of this data set is? Now with dot plots, there are 2 ways to find the median. Some of you may have used your strategy of marking out the least greatest, least greatest, least greatest until you got to the center. Now we have 2 numbers, but they're both 2. That makes it easy for us. Our median is 2. Now, if you wanted to do it just from the dot plot, you could do the same thing. You could mark out your lowest dot, your highest dot, lowest, highest, lowest, highest, lowest, highest, and then we're left with dots at 2. Therefore, our median is 2. Now, for the mean, we want to use our list of data down here. And we find the mean the same way that we practiced last week. What do you think the mean for this data is? Now, to calculate the mean, remember, we have to add up our data points. 0 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 5. Let me make sure I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 data points. Excellent. The sum of these numbers is 18. What's the next step to find the mean? Our next step is to take our 18 and divide by how many points we have. We have 10 points, and then we have 18 divided by 10. What is 18 divided by 10? We get 1 8/10. Some of you may have divided it out, but remember, you use long division, but remember, if we're dividing by 10, we have that 1 0, which means we move our decimal 1 place to the left. So we have a median of 2 and a mean of 1 8/10. And those are pretty close together. Okay, now for measures of spread. Let's go ahead and start with our range. Based on what you practiced last week, what do you think the range of this data is? Now for a dot plot, since our data is written out at the bottom, we can use this to locate the lowest or the lowest or the least or the minimum, and then the highest, the minimum, or the maximum here. We can also locate those on the dot plot with these dots. Either way, we subtract 5 minus 0 to give us a range of 5. That's how spread out these points are of the number of touchdowns. Okay, now our interquartile range. To find our interquartile range, what is the first step that we need to do with our data? The first step is to find the median of the data. We found that in a previous slide, but just to remind, we go to the middle, and like we said earlier, our median equals 2. What do we need to find next? Next up, we are finding quartile 1, our first quartile, which is the median of the lower half of the data. So we're going to mark out, mark out, mark out, mark out, and we're left with 1. What do we need to find next? Next, we're doing the same thing, but we're looking at quartile 3, which is the median of the upper half of our data. So now we mark out, mark out, mark out, mark out, and we have 2. What is our last step to find the interquartile range? Our last step is to subtract quartile 3 minus quartile 1, which would be 2 minus 1, which equals 1. So in this set of data, we have a range of 5 and an interquartile range of 1. You can use this video to help you with your practice problems for finding the measures of center and spread for dot plots. See you next time.